They thought they could break him with small acts of destruction. A mailbox crushed again and again, tire marks cutting into the dirt, laughter echoing as they drove away. To them, it was just a joke, a petty game of power. But to him, it was more. It was humiliation, a reminder that his presence was unwelcome. What they didn't know was that every crack, every dent, was building something inside him. One night, he decided enough was enough. And what he built next, they would never forget. James had worked his entire life for this land, a quiet stretch of ranch property on the outskirts of a suburban development. Rolling hills, worn fences, and a small red barn that held more stories than most houses on the block. He wasn't a man of wealth, but he was a man of pride. Moving out there was supposed to be his reward after decades of hard work, a chance to breathe freely under the wide Texas sky. But the Homeowners Association didn't see him as just another neighbor. To them, James was different. Too different. His skin, his voice, his independence. It all seemed to rub them the wrong way. They couldn't control him like the others, and that unsettled them. At first, it was subtle. Cold stares at community meetings, passive-aggressive letters stuffed in his mailbox about keeping property standards. He shrugged it off. He wasn't going to waste energy on pettiness. But then the mailbox started showing up in pieces, splintered wood, bent metal, tire tracks pressed deep into the dirt like signatures of cruelty. It wasn't once. It wasn't twice. It was a pattern. Night after night, someone was running it over. James replaced it each time, only to find it destroyed again. To them, it was just a mailbox. To him, it was a message. The destruction became a ritual. He'd wake up in the morning, walk down the long gravel driveway, and see the wreckage waiting for him. Splintered posts, a crushed tin box, sometimes even the mail scattered across the road. Neighbors would drive by slowly, smirks tugging at their lips, pretending not to notice. James reported it. The sheriff's office wrote a note, shrugged, and said they'd look into it. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. The HOA dismissed it as kids being kids. But James knew better. He saw the pickup trucks creeping past his property late at night, headlights cutting across his barn, engines revving as if daring him to react. Each smashed mailbox wasn't just vandalism. It was a performance, a reminder. They wanted him to feel small. They wanted him to leave. But James wasn't going anywhere. One morning, after finding the mailbox flattened yet again, he stood over the wreckage and felt something shift inside him. He was tired of patching, tired of rebuilding. This wasn't just about mail anymore. It was about respect. It was about dignity. And if they wanted a game, he would play. He spent days researching, sketching, planning. Trips to the hardware store. Quiet welding sessions in his barn after sundown. Heavy steel plates. Reinforced concrete. Bolts thicker than most car axles. Piece by piece, he built something that looked like an ordinary mailbox on the outside. But inside, it was an unmovable fortress. Neighbors noticed the sparks from his workshop, the sound of grinding metal. They whispered, curious. But James said nothing. He simply set the new mailbox into the ground, burying the concrete base deep enough to outlast even the heaviest truck. To the untrained eye, it looked the same. But it wasn't. Not anymore. And when the HOA cops came rolling by again, he was ready. It happened on a moonless night. James was sitting on his porch, coffee in hand, when he heard it. The distant rumble of a truck engine. The crunch of gravel under heavy tires. Headlights swept across his field, slow at first, then faster as they aimed straight for the mailbox. The truck accelerated, laughter spilling out of the windows. They thought it was routine. Another night, another destroyed mailbox. Another reminder of control. But this time, when steel met steel, the night erupted with a sound they hadn't expected. A thunderous crash, the screech of bending metal, the sudden, violent stop of momentum. The truck lurched forward and crumpled like paper against the unyielding mailbox. The laughter died instantly. Smoke curled from the hood. The front bumper hung like broken teeth. Inside, Panic set in as the men scrambled, realizing the joke had turned into a costly mistake. The mailbox. Not even a scratch. James didn't move. He sat silently on the porch, the glow from his coffee cup steady against the dark. He didn't need to say a word. The mailbox had spoken for him. By morning, the story spread through the neighborhood. Everyone saw the wrecked truck being towed, the embarrassed faces of the men who once thought themselves untouchable. For the first time, the quiet stares turned into something else, respect mixed with fear. They realized James wasn't the one being tested anymore. They were. After that night, the mailbox was never touched again. James would walk down his driveway each morning and see it standing tall, unbothered, a silent monument to his resilience. The HOA stopped their petty letters. The late-night drives by his property dwindled to nothing. They had tried to push him out, but instead, they revealed his strength. For James, it was never about revenge. It was about drawing a line, about proving that dignity can't be run over by trucks or buried under hate. His mailbox became more than steel and concrete. It was a symbol of what happens when quiet endurance transforms into action. The story rippled beyond his neighborhood. Friends, relatives, even strangers shared it as an example of standing firm against subtle but relentless racism. And while not every battle could be won with steel and concrete, this one sent a clear message. Sometimes, the smallest stand carries the loudest echo. In the end, James didn't just protect his mailbox. He reclaimed his place, his land, his dignity, and he reminded everyone watching that sometimes the strongest form of resistance is to stay put and refuse to be broken. How many more mailboxes will it take before we finally stop trying to break people who only want to live in peace? If this story moved you, share it. Like, comment, and subscribe, because the more these stories are told, the harder they are to silence.